88 minutes. That is how long the Netherlands controlled their World Cup opener against Japan before Daichi Kamada's deflected header from a corner kick consigned Ronald Koeman's side to a 2-2 draw that nobody in the Dutch camp saw coming. The Orange had led twice. Goals from Virgil van Dijk and Crescencio Somerville had given them control of the match in Dallas. And then, in the dying embers of the contest, Japan equalized for a second time and stole a point that the Netherlands had every right to believe was already banked. Now, days later, at NRG Stadium in Houston, the Netherlands face Sweden in a match that has rapidly become one of the most consequential fixtures of the entire Group F campaign, and the question hanging over this Dutch performance is whether Saturday's match against Sweden is the moment they save their entire World Cup campaign, or the moment the cracks that appeared against Japan widen into something genuinely alarming. To understand why this match carries so much weight, you need to understand exactly how Group F has been completely upended in the space of a single match day. Before the tournament began, the Netherlands, ranked 8th in the world, a side that reached 3 World Cup finals without ever lifting the trophy, and a squad that many analysts expected to cruise through this group, were the clear favorites to top Group F comfortably. Sweden, ranked 34th in the world and 20th in most power rankings heading into the tournament, were viewed as the clear underdogs, a side many expected to finish bottom of the group or fight Tunisia for third place. Then the opening round of matches happened, and the entire picture flipped upside down. Sweden produced one of the genuine shocks of the tournament's opening days, thrashing Tunisia 5-1 in a performance built around the devastating attacking partnership of Alexander Isak and Viktor Gyökeres, two of the most dangerous strikers in European football, both playing at the absolute peak of their powers, both finding the net repeatedly in a display that has already equaled Sweden's entire group stage goal tally from the 2018 World Cup in a single match. Sweden has scored 2 or more goals in each of their last 3 matches across all competitions. They arrive in Houston as Group F's surprise leaders, sitting on 3 points, 2 clear of the Netherlands. The Netherlands, meanwhile, arrive having seen what looked like a routine opening victory slip through their fingers in the most painful way possible. Virgil van Dijk, the Liverpool captain, one of the most respected defenders in the world, now leading this Dutch side as both its defensive anchor and its attacking outlet from set pieces, scored to put the Netherlands ahead, only for Japan's Keito Nakamura to equalize. Crescencio Somerville then restored the lead, giving the Orange what appeared to be a platform to close out the match comfortably. Instead, Japan kept pushing, kept creating chances, and in the 88th minute, Kamada's deflected header found its way past the Dutch goalkeeper from a corner that should never have produced a clear sight of goal. 2 points lost, a psychological dent inflicted, and a Dutch dressing room that knows going into Saturday's match against a red-hot Sweden that there is now genuine pressure where there was supposed to be comfortable progression. The data and the betting markets tell a fascinating, slightly contradictory story about how this match is expected to unfold. The Opta supercomputer, running 25,000 pre-match simulations, makes the Netherlands favorites, predicting them to win 55.8% of those simulations. FanDuel's consensus odds price the Netherlands as the clear anchor pick at -138, with most professional prediction models converging on a Netherlands victory by a score in the region of 2-1. Multiple statistical previews note that over 2.5 goals has landed in 83% of the Netherlands' last 6 matches, and that they have won 6 of their last 11 matches overall. Numbers that paint a picture of a team whose underlying quality and attacking output remain elite even after the disappointment against Japan. And there is one statistic that towers above almost everything else in this preview. The Netherlands have not lost in normal time in their last 13 World Cup matches, a run stretching back to the 2010 World Cup final defeat to Spain. That is the joint longest unbeaten run by any nation in the history of the tournament, matched only by Brazil's extraordinary run between 1958 and 1966. Whatever uncertainty surrounds this specific Dutch squad in this specific tournament, that 13-match unbeaten record represents an extraordinary baseline of competitive resilience that this team carries into every match at this level. But the case for Sweden pulling off what would be one of the genuine upsets of the tournament's group stage is built on something more specific and more dangerous than simple underdog spirit. It is built on Alexander Isak and Victor Gyökeres, and on a Dutch defensive structure that has already shown real vulnerability in exactly the situations these two strikers are designed to exploit. Analysts previewing this match have been explicit and consistent on this point. Sweden's attacking strength lies specifically in transition, in springing forward quickly when the opposition commits numbers forward, exploiting exactly the kind of high defensive line that Ronald Koeman's Netherlands like to employ when they are pushing for goals. Against Japan, the Dutch conceded twice, including that agonizing 88th minute equalizer from a corner kick, a set-piece situation that exposed concentration lapses and aerial vulnerability at the worst possible moment. If Sweden's defense can hold relatively firm against the Netherlands' technical and possession-based approach, the Gyökeres-Isak partnership represents exactly the kind of explosive, direct attacking weapon that could turn one defensive mistake from Koeman's side into a genuine moment of Swedish history. The tactical battle that will likely determine this match comes down to a question that one detailed preview from UVAFC.com framed with real precision. Koeman's ability to balance attacking intent with defensive structure is the key question that Sweden manager Graham Potter's counter-attacking setup will try to exploit. This is the central tension of the entire fixture. The Netherlands have the technical superiority, the squad depth, and the individual quality in attack to dominate large portions of this match in terms of territory and possession. Memphis Depay brings veteran composure and experience to lead the Dutch attacking line. Cody Gakpo and Daniel Malen provide pace and quality in wide attacking positions. Crescencio Somerville and Van Dijk both scored against Japan, giving this squad confidence from what one preview described as unlikely sources. Meaning the goal threat is not solely dependent on the headline attacking players, but is spread across multiple positions, including set-piece situations involving the captain himself. But every time the Netherlands commit numbers forward to press for a second or third goal, they create exactly the kind of space in behind that Gyökeres' physical power. And Isak's clinical finishing are built to punish in a matter of seconds. The Netherlands' warm-up form heading into this tournament adds another layer of intrigue and not entirely a reassuring one for Dutch supporters. In their preparation friendlies, the Netherlands lost to Algeria, failed to beat Ecuador, but did defeat Norway and Uzbekistan. That is a genuinely inconsistent run of results for a side ranked 8th in the world heading into a major tournament. And yet, set against that inconsistency, the Netherlands' actual qualifying campaign for this World Cup delivered 27 goals across 8 unbeaten matches. Numbers that speak to an extremely high ceiling for this squad when the system clicks into gear, even if the warm-up matches and the opening tournament fixture against Japan have shown that the floor on a difficult night can look considerably less convincing than that ceiling would suggest. Sweden's own context matters enormously here too, because a 5-goal demolition of Tunisia, however spectacular, does not automatically translate into the same attacking output against a Netherlands defense that, while shaky against Japan, still features one of the most decorated and respected central defenders in world football directly at its heart. Virgil van Dijk attempted 102 passes in the draw against Japan, the highest mark on the entire Dutch team, well above what most statistical models had projected for him, signaling a captain who is not just defending, but actively directing and controlling the tempo of his team's play from the back. A Van Dijk performing at that level of composure and control is exactly the kind of defensive presence that can neutralize even a strike partnership as dangerous as Gyökeres and Isak, provided the players around him maintain the defensive discipline and concentration that slipped just once in the dying minutes against Japan. The venue itself adds a specific tactical wrinkle that several previews have flagged as relevant to how this match is likely to play out. NRG Stadium in Houston is an indoor, temperature-controlled dome. Conditions that remove weather and heat as variables entirely and tend, according to data analysts, to favor possession-based, technically proficient teams who can dictate tempo without having to account for wind, heat, or humidity disrupting their passing game. That is a condition that, on paper, should favor the Netherlands' more methodical, possession-oriented approach over Sweden's more direct, transition-focused style. Though it is worth noting that controlled indoor conditions can just as easily benefit a team like Sweden if their counter-attacking outlets are sharp enough to punish any lapse in concentration from a Dutch side that dominates territory without consistently converting that dominance into a second or third goal. The specific match script that most professional prediction models are converging around looks remarkably consistent across multiple independent sources. RotoWire's consensus projection has the Netherlands winning 2-1. FanDuel's research identifies over 2.5 goals as the most efficient consensus total alongside that scoreline, with Cody Gakpo identified as the most likely Dutch goal scorer, and Alexander Isak flagged at attractive odds as the player most likely to ensure Sweden are not shut out even in defeat. The same game parlay logic that emerges from this analysis is built around a specific theory of the match. Dutch quality ultimately proves decisive and produces a winning margin, but Sweden's front two are good enough, and the Dutch backline has shown enough vulnerability that Sweden finds the net at least once regardless of the final result. That is, in essence, the most likely version of did the Dutch save their World Cup? Not a comfortable routine victory that erases all doubt, but a tense goal-laden contest in which the Netherlands edge ahead, concede something uncomfortable to Sweden's elite strike partnership, and emerge with the 3 points they desperately need while leaving their supporters' nerves jangled for long stretches of the match. What would a genuinely convincing answer to "Did the Dutch save their World Cup?" actually look like if Saturday's match goes well for Koeman's side? It would mean controlling the match's tempo for sustained periods rather than only in bursts as happened against Japan. It would mean converting territorial dominance into a cushion of 2 or more goals well before the final 20 minutes, removing the kind of late-match vulnerability that cost them against Japan's set-piece equalizer. It would mean Van Dijk's exceptional passing numbers translating into genuine defensive solidity rather than simply ball retention without defensive substance. And it would mean limiting Jokers and Isak to isolated half chances rather than the kind of sustained transition opportunities that turned Sweden's match against Tunisia into a 5-goal demonstration of attacking firepower. Conversely, what would genuinely deepen the crisis narrative around this Dutch squad, regardless of the final scoreline? A match in which the Netherlands concede first or concede multiple times, or once again find themselves unable to see out a lead in the closing stages, would suggest that the issues exposed against Japan are not an aberration, but a genuine structural vulnerability in Koeman's setup. One that better organized knockout stage opposition, should the Netherlands advance that far, would be even better equipped to exploit than Sweden's talented but still developing squad. The stakes attached to this single match extend beyond pride and momentum into the concrete mathematics of World Cup qualification. Sweden know that another victory here would all but secure their place in the knockout rounds with a game to spare against Japan in their final group fixture. The Netherlands, sitting on a single point after the Japan draw, face a different calculation. Koeman's side will finish their group stage against Tunisia on June 25th, and most analysts believe 4 points across the remaining 2 fixtures should be enough to qualify even if that means finishing third in the group rather than first. That calculation matters because it slightly reduces the absolute must-win urgency around Saturday's match compared to a scenario in which defeat would mathematically eliminate the Dutch. But it does not reduce the psychological and momentum-based stakes one bit. A second consecutive disappointing result, even a draw, would leave the Netherlands needing a strong finish against Tunisia simply to advance, and would send them into the knockout rounds if they get there at all, with a squad whose confidence and cohesion are very much in question rather than peaking at the ideal moment. The historical weight pressing on both these nations adds a final, almost poetic layer to Saturday's contest. The Netherlands and Sweden are 2 of just 5 nations in World Cup history to have reached a final without ever winning the trophy. The Dutch in 1974, 1978, and 2010, Sweden in 1958. Both Ronald Koeman and Graham Potter understand, perhaps more acutely than the managers of almost any other competing nation, exactly what it feels like to fall agonizingly short of football's ultimate prize, Saturday's match in Houston will not decide that question for either nation, but it will go a considerable distance toward determining whether this particular Dutch generation gets the chance to chase that elusive first title deep into the knockout rounds with momentum and belief behind them, or whether they enter the rest of this tournament still searching for the form, the cohesion, and the late-match concentration that abandoned them in the dying minutes against Japan. 88 minutes cost them control of their opener. 90 minutes against Sweden will tell us a great deal about whether that was a cruel anomaly or the first sign of something more serious unraveling beneath the surface of one of this tournament's most storied football nations. There is one more name worth watching closely when this match kicks off, and it belongs to neither Sweden's strikers nor the Netherlands' established stars, but to the broader squad depth that Koeman has at his disposal as he searches for the right balance between defensive solidity and attacking intent. Quinten Timber, one of the Dutch midfield options, has been ruled out through concussion protocol, a detail confirmed in injury reports released just days before kickoff. His absence removes one option from Koeman's midfield rotation at exactly the moment the manager needs to find the right structural balance to simultaneously contain Gyökeres and Isak, while still generating enough attacking quality through midfield to support Depay, Gakpo, and Malian further forward. Every selection decision Koeman makes in that double pivot in front of Van Dijk will be scrutinized intensely, both during the match and in the post-match analysis, because it is precisely that midfield screen that failed to protect against Japan's late surge and that now faces an even more dangerous attacking proposition in Sweden's front two. The broader picture across Group F heading into this weekend's fixtures also deserves a moment of attention, because Saturday's Netherlands-Sweden match does not exist in isolation. Tunisia, sitting bottom of the group with 0 points after their heavy defeat to Sweden, will be desperate for any kind of response when they face Japan in the group's other fixture this weekend. A Tunisia performance that suggests they are not simply there to be brushed aside would add further unpredictability to a group that has already defied every preseason expectation in just one round of matches. Japan, for their part, will be buoyed by the way they fought back twice against the Netherlands, and a positive result against Tunisia would put them in a strong position heading into their own final group match. Potentially against a Netherlands side they have already shown they can trouble, regardless of what happens against Sweden this weekend. What makes this particular international fixture especially compelling from a broadcasting and global audience perspective is the sheer concentration of elite attacking talent on display in a group stage match that, on paper before the tournament, looked like it might be one of the less competitive fixtures of the group phase. Alexander Isak, one of the most coveted strikers in world football, lining up against Virgil van Dijk, one of the most complete defenders of his generation, with the World Cup knockout stages and decades of national footballing heartbreak hanging in the balance for two countries who know all too well what it feels like to come agonizingly close to the ultimate prize and fall short. This is exactly the kind of must-watch group stage fixture that the World Cup's expanded format, with its accompanying unpredictability across all the groups, was always going to produce. High stakes, genuine quality on both sides, and a result that remains, with good reason, far closer to a coin flip than the pre-tournament rankings ever suggested it would be. Kickoff at NRG Stadium is set for 1 p.m. Eastern Time, broadcast live on Fox in English and Telemundo and Peacock in Spanish, with BBC and BBC iPlayer carrying the match free to air for audiences in the United Kingdom. Whatever unfolds across the 90 minutes that follow, the storyline heading into next week's decisive final round of Group F matches will be shaped entirely by what happens in Houston this Saturday afternoon. Did the Dutch save their World Cup? By the final whistle, we will have a considerably clearer answer than we do right now, and either Ronald Koeman's side will have reasserted the control and composure that eluded them in the dying minutes against Japan, or this tournament will already be asking much harder questions about a Dutch squad that arrived among the favorites, and now finds itself fighting just to avoid an early exit from the group stage of a World Cup they were supposed to navigate with comfort to spare.